topic of discussion is usually about blockchain. And since your expertise in Islamic finance, we will start with Islamic finance and move swiftly to blockchain and fintech as well. But before we start, I will give you the mic, Doctor, to introduce us a little bit about your expertise and previous experiences in Islamic finance and fintech as well. So the mic is yours. We all listening.
Okay. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you so much for these invitations. I guess it's always nice to meet new people, especially young people who are excited to explore all this new adventure. So I would probably say that fintech is a new thing. It's still evolving. People still have a very limited understanding about what fintech is all about, and people have undermined the potential of fintech. So it's very nice to talk about it in these sessions as well, and especially to young entrepreneur like you guys have vision and believe in what you are doing, even though at a much smaller scale right now, but eventually you will evolve to something bigger. So just a brief introduction about myself. Currently, I'm an associate professor and also associate dean of academic affairs at Hamad bin College of Islamic Studies, Hamad bin Khalifa University, Qatar Foundation. So I've just been in Qatar for about a year now. I came last year, October. Alhamdulillah, it's been a very exciting and interesting journey. Prior to that, I was with INSEF, a university set up by the Central Bank of Malaysia for Islamic finance. I was there for 9 years as well. In the same capacity, I was an associate professor. I was also an associate dean at the same university as well. So I'm quite different as compared to many other academics because when I was in Malaysia, even now here, not only I do academic research, but I also involved in many policy institute. I was with World Bank for about 1 year plus attachment. I also with some of the banks doing some consultancy projects and so on and so forth. And since I moved to Qatar, I've been fortunate enough to be an advisor to about 4 to 5 fintech companies, which is based in Malaysia and also Europe. So that's how I developed my expertise, trying to basically to provide some solutions in terms of making impact to the society. So I started my career with the research in finance, and then I moved to Islamic capital market. And lately, I'm trying to be more on research which is related to policies and also solution towards increasing inclusions, supporting the SMEs, supporting the micro entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. So this is something very exciting. Again, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to share some of the limited knowledge I have in this topic, inshallah.
Well, thank you so much. Well, to start off, if you can explain to us more about the fintech, what is it, and how does it related actually to blockchain industry?
Okay. So instead of just giving you a broad definitions and it's quite standard anyway, so let me just try to explain to you in the different perspective. You see, previously when we talk about finance or even we talk about banking, we talk about the concept first, and then the technology comes later. The reason why is that that's how banking evolved. It's basically based on trust, and then the trust has to be regulated, and eventually technology start coming in banking. All right, so fintech is not something new. Even the banks do it as well. They use technology to expand the capacity of finance. All right, but then over time people realize that maybe we can do it our own. We don't really need this big industry to really provide services to the consumers. And why that is possible, because you can create trust based on the availability of the technology. Okay, so this is how blockchain comes in, because blockchains is a mechanism or the technology that allow you to create trust. Okay, the fact that is trustworthy and is cannot be encrypted, and is ledger based, and you can just look at, and it's an open system, and it can be transparent, and so on and so forth. So then people start realizing, we don't really need this big massive regulation and massive institution just to make people believe in and trust in us anymore. So we can use this technology, and it's not only blockchain. You are coupled with all other technologies as well. For example, cloud computing and AI and all these amazing technologies that are coming up allow people to provide the solutions. So now you're actually looking at two opposite systems. So previously you start with finance and banking, and then you move towards technology, and now you actually have advanced technology, and now you're saying that, okay, why don't we reverse the whole process, and when we try to feed in the finance within the technology. So this is basically my understanding of fintech. And fintech is not just about blockchain. Fintech is generally about producing or solution or finance based solution to the people using the availability of technology, and blockchain allows that to happen. So in a nutshell, when people trying to understand what is fintech, and people try to make it very complicated, but actually it's quite simple. You provide financing solution, or you provide finance solution. And it can be any solution. It can be capital market solution, investment solution, it can be charity solution, it can be insurance solution, any solution that you really need. Because finance is only about three things: wealth accumulation, wealth preservation, and wealth distribution. Right? So instead of having a very large institution for you to produce that, now you're saying that, okay, why don't we produce it in a much smaller scale, or community based, or interest, community that have a common interest, like what we are doing right now. We are sitting in the cafe, and we come together, and we talk, and we trust the system that, this is basically a community that we can hang out each other. So that's what, in the nutshell, fintech is all about. And the best thing about it is that because the solution is being democratized, that means that it's available to everyone who knows how to use it, and no one is really in control or have the complete monopoly of it. So it allow anybody to use it for the sake of coming up with a solution. All right. So it's not like, oh, you
Yes.
have to be. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, I like the concept of defining blockchain as a mechanism to allow you to put trust, because that's basically what blockchain all about. It's came to cancel the mediator, the bank, the mediator that always in between peer to peer. And the way you define as well fintech, it's a way to provide investment for the technological, projects. And it came with the same concept to basically also cancel basically the mediator. But which one is the bigger umbrella here? Is the fintech the bigger umbrella, and blockchain as a mechanism came under fintech, or how do you see it?
I believe that blockchains are the enabler for fintech to exist. Just like
Um,
cloud computing is also the enabler. All right. So blockchain can be an alternative for high regulations. All right. So this is all under the umbrella of decentralization of finance. So in the past, you start finance small. You have this local community bank, local credit center, local cooperative. So it's all started small as well. Then eventually it grows, and it become a centralized mechanism. So we are not doing anything new here. So we just reversing the process. So from decentralized, it become a centralized system, highly regulated system, massive system that creates so much of systemic risk to the market, where the banks have to be protected. You have a central bank as the last lender of the last resort. So now what we are saying right now is that, okay, so since we have the technology, we have blockchain, we have also cloud computing, we also have artificial intelligence. So all this, and now with the quantum computing, the power of computer become much bigger. So now we are saying that, okay, we have all this. Okay, we reverse the process. All right. And not only we reverse the process to make it small, but actually what we are doing is that we reversing the process is that we are putting the power back into the hands of the people. All right. And you decide what kind of solutions that you want. and it doesn't have to be offered by mega institution. So it can be even offered by a small institution like you guys. It can be offered by another institutions, and it doesn't have border, right? For example, right now I'm in Qatar, you are in Turkey. Just like you said, people in Malaysia can subscribe to your solution. There's no cross border regulation here. Bitcoin is the same in Turkey, is also the same in Malaysia, is also the same in Qatar. So we remove a lot of transaction barriers when you adapt this, because eventually it's an open system that accessible to everyone. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is very nicely put. So, going back a little bit, back to the traditional finance. So we have three concepts here. We have traditional finance, we have the fintech, we have the blockchain, which you call it and describe it as an enabler of the fintech. The difference between all three concepts, going back a little bit to the traditional finance, how it goes and how it's jumped to fintech and now blockchain as a disruptive more technology.
All right. So I think the key operative word here is that it's just a disruptor. All right. So whatever we have
Mm,
is actually a disruptor. So we all have to understand that, okay, so this whole world, let's say, is a big pie, and now everyone is just taking an ownership of the pie. So in traditional finance, you use a very structured system. You have institution, you have regulation, you have the people, and then you have technology as one small component of it, and then you bring everybody together, and then you transact in such a way that is being structured and evolve over the 400 years. So, and people say that, okay, this fintech gonna change the things and so on. Nothing will change, because eventually, as a human beings, even you live 400 years ago or you live now, your needs and the desire and the way of living is exactly the same. You consume, you save, or you invest, and then you use the investment to basically for the future consumptions. So the basic idea of human existence is exactly the same. The only thing that what we are saying right now is that instead of doing it in the old way, you are actually have an alternative to do it in a new way. Example, all right? Instead of you saying that, okay, I need to invest in US dollar and I need to, let's say, have a basket of currencies like a pound, or I need to put the money in gold or even in property. Now we're giving you another alternative, which is, for example, you can basically put your money in Bitcoin. All right, so you can use it as an investment alternative. Or initially, for example, in the past, you say, okay, I need to trade using US dollar. Okay, so now maybe if the two countries come together and say, okay, now we can trade exactly using Bitcoin or using cryptocurrency. All right. So what exactly the difference between traditional finance and what we are talking right now is that you are taking away the ownership from a central authority, and you are saying that now you are free to do it either in a small scale right now, okay, because people are only looking at the system right now as an investment opportunity, because that's why it's exposed so much to speculative investment, because people don't really understand the power of the system. But once you understand the power of the system, you realize that many of the things that people always talk about, for instance, people talk about how we going to replace, for example, dollar as the current world currency. So now you have an alternative. So the point is that there's no difference between what we are talking about, traditional finance and this finance. It is still finance. All right. The only thing you are doing is that you are actually taking the ownership from one authority, and you are giving the authority to another party, which is much more open compared to whatever we have right now. But other than that, investment product, they are still the same. Saving product, they are still the same. Insurance product, they are still the same. And so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the biggest problem right now is that when people talk about crypto, or people talk about NFT, people talk about all the things that we are living in the so-called cyberspace. People are talking about it as a speculative investment mainly, and it's all about based on over pricing, over volatility, and the reason why this is happening is because the market is actually being played by a very small people. All right, it's not really being played by large masses that you see in the traditional finance. But as you probably understand, is that as the system grow and evolve and become accepted by many other people, and it been used for many other right reason instead of just for speculative investment, then the acceptance of this alternative system will become much more stable because the market become too big and it cannot be dominated or be influenced by a small amount of people. So that's what I would probably say the difference between traditional and also what we are seeing right now.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay, يعني how when the fintech emerged as a new concept, as a disruptive concept, you have said it is a disruptive. How the old gang or the old power, let's say the monopoly of old system, played with this new emerging, concept.
Mhm.
Because also blockchain as a concept and the cryptocurrencies may be facing now and the same thing that's happening that happened before.
All right. Again, let me just give you an example how to answer this question. For example, you take Citibank. They have closed down their consumer operation in Malaysia, in Philippines, in India. In India, a country of 1.4 billion people, they have closed down the consumer operation. And I asked some of my friends who are in banking, and in fact, one of my friend who's working in Citibank as well. I say, why you are doing this, right? I mean, it's very profitable. You have the system, you have the technology. So his answer is actually very straightforward. He's saying that, in the future, the fintech companies can offer whatever services that we are doing for consumer faster and much cheaper price. And we do not want to compete with something, because consumer is a very tedious business. People borrow 100,000, maybe 200,000. You need to deal and so on and so forth. And you have to provide customer service, and it's a lot of cost for very small amount of money. So now they're saying that, okay, we withdraw because we believe that, fintech company can come in and take out that particular space. So that's one way of to understand that, how fintech is actually can be considered as a disruptive model. But more importantly, what we are saying is that, when people try to understand the harness of the power of fintech. So let me just give you an example. One of the company that I'm advising right now. So try to give out financing to poor people, all right? Very poor people. So the first question that we have to ask ourselves is that why the banks are not doing it? Because they don't understand the market, right? But the question is now, how come you say that fintech can understand the market better? It's not that the fintech can understand the market better, because the availability of the technology right now can make people to understand the market better. Because with AI, you can actually profile people. All right, you can actually understand the behavior of the people, and that can be translated into a model, and that model can be used as an alternative credit scoring model as well. And blockchain, you can actually monitor. For example, if you give them money and you can say, okay, you can only use, for example, crypto for you to do transaction, then you can see where the money goes, and where based on the ledger and everything. And you can even see, for example, how much money they're spending, how much money they still have of your, for example, customers, and where the money goes. Are they using it for consumption, or are they really using it for trade purpose, and so on and so forth. And so two things will happen. Number one, the banks will stay away from this kind of business. They say, we don't want to do it anymore. We want to focus on bigger things, and they might scale it down on the consumer side. And not only consumer side, but fintech allows to us to go into market which is not penetrable before. That's one thing that can happen. The other thing, and I'm sure you all probably know this, the idea of open banking, where banks will partner with all these fintech companies and allow them to still produce these services as a bank, as the anchor company. All right. So they still capture the market, but they allow, basically, an open banking system. And if I'm not mistaken, the word is API. I can't exactly remember, to really, capture this market. So banks are also evolving as well. So they are actually changing their business model, allowing fintech to be affiliated with them so that they still continue their presence in the market. And another alternative is that, they are saying that, okay, we don't want to get into this. We know that fintech can serve this thing better. And this is where the potential of fintech, and then this is why I'm excited to talk to you guys, because in the Muslim world, we have almost 2 billion people. And I think close to 800 million people, or maybe a billion people, if I'm not mistaken, are not bankable. That means they don't even have a bank account. They are not even credit worthy. Why? Because there's no proper record about them. Maybe they're just doing their own business. Maybe they never believe in the banking system, and so on and so forth. So there's a huge amount of potential in the Muslim world, especially when it comes to providing much smaller scale solutions to the people that need the solutions the most. Okay, so that's how I wanted to explain your answer to your questions.
Okay, thank you. So basically, big corporate or bank system, they are trying to embrace fintech, which, in your opinion, as you said, it's the best option for them, embracing and let them work under their umbrella, or just leave a bigger space for them to work in areas that they know that they can work better than them. In term of the fintech itself, how it's shaping the future of finance. Do you see there is a progress over here, and how fintech will really shape the future of finance?
Okay. You see, a lot of people, they fail to understand is that they think finance is the end of everything. They think that, okay, finance is the mechanism, to make money, to get, for example, you put $1 and you try to get more and everything. So the way I see this thing, I think this is a very exciting question. The way I see this thing is very simple. You have perhaps 8 billion people living in this world, and some are financially inclusive, some are not. And the beauty about inclusive in finance is that once you attach to the bank, you have saving account, then you have investment account, then you have insurance account, then you have pension account and everything. So you let the experts to really produce a solution for you. Okay, and because the expert knows exactly how to manage your money, how exactly to give you credit, and you can have access to education. You can get education financing perhaps, or you can buy a house, or you can actually even get some credit for investment and to start a business, and so on and so forth. So for me, when people talk about fintech, people seems to be thinking, oh, this is all about crypto. It's not. All right. Fintech is much bigger than that. So what we are saying right now is that previously doing finance is very costly. Okay. Think about a simple finance thing. You transfer the money, let's say, from Turkey to America. You need to pay, for example, right now my daughter is studying in UK, so I have to pay fees. So number one, I will lose my transaction in term of what is that, conversion fee, and then I need to pay commission fee because the university, for example, is a traditional university, for example, doesn't accept crypto, right? Example. But if they accept crypto, then I don't really have to pay that much of money in terms of paying the fees. Example, just to give you one example. All right. So what exactly I'm trying to say here is that the system that you have right now allowed you to do things that used to be more expensive and used to be more exclusive right now, and to become more cheaper and more inclusive. All right. So two things are happening right now. The word exclusive become inclusive, and the transaction cost that used to be more expensive now it's become more cheaper and accessible. All right. So what is the beauty about this thing? So when you become inclusive and cheaper and more trustworthy, and also less prone to systemic risk. Yes, fintech is also a startup is also risky because many of the startup will go under after a while. So how do you trust whether your money will be safe, and so on and so forth? So yes, the debate is always there. You can trust the bigger players because highly regulated, and so on and so forth. So you have a system where these are too strong and this is coming up. So what we are trying to do right now is that we are trying to provide a solution and concepts and understanding, and even try to basically create a much robust ecosystem so that you can create some kind of parity between the two. So when I say about parity, I'm not talking about the size of doing business and so on and so forth. I'm talking about the parity of trust. So when you have some parity of trust between the two, so trust me, the system that you have right now, can actually provide multiple solutions for people who've been excluded all these years. And there are many Muslims that are being excluded right now. Maybe we don't feel it because I live in Qatar, everyone is okay, easy to open a bank account. But if you go to India, you got 300 million Muslims. 300 million Muslims. And many of them don't even have a bank account. And they can't even open a bank account, for example. Maybe they are being discriminated, or maybe they don't have proper access. Maybe they have to pay higher fees. I do not know. But this is what exactly happening in Bangladesh, for example, or even Indonesia. We have 300 million people. So how do you go to a rural area and have all these things? So the point I'm trying to make here is that right now, fintech is a mechanism to bring the people who are excluded into the system. And as it grows naturally, this is something that people must understand. You cannot force fintech to grow exponentially and try to compete with the traditional banking. And this is the many mistakes that people are doing, and this is why crypto especially are getting a very bad image, because people are trying to push it too hard and try to convince people that this is actually the right thing to do, not and being away from the traditional finance. So what I'm suggesting is that let it grow gradually and naturally and organically. And because why? As you let it grow naturally, number one, trust will grow. Technology will definitely become better and better. The ecosystem will definitely become better and better. And people will figure out how to regulate this in much broader scale, not a country specific, but even a universal regulation for fintech. And that will allow actually cross-border integration. But when you push it too hard, what will happen is that the system will collapse. And exactly like what crypto that happening right now, where it goes up to 60,000 and now it's come down to 20,000, and some of the crypto is start collapsing and so on and so forth. So why? Because people are really having a negative connotation and understanding about the system. Okay, all right. I can go on and
Okay,
on,
thank
but
you, Doctor.
I don't want to talk
Yeah,
too much.
yeah. This is actually very interesting. Fintech and crypto itself, how it will pan out in the future, how it will. I mean, what's the impact of this on the Muslim world, and also how do you see, as a person who's expert in this field, how do you see the regulation and from the authorities and the adoption from the authorities so far? That happened. How do you see it? Is it fast enough, or do you see that we should leave it, to adapt for the system to adapt it step by step? And also, my other question in this regard, mainly also about the Sharia look to the blockchain and crypto itself. I know maybe you're not a mufti yourself, but as a person who studied Islamic finance, and how do you see blockchain and cryptocurrencies fit in the Islamic finance in general?
You see, I mean, you're absolutely right. I always try to stay away from talking about Sharia issues, but in this context, people have to understand, how the entire system pan out. But unfortunately, when people talk about crypto, people only look at number one, the volatility of the investment, and number two, the fact that no one knows what is the value being, how the value of the Bitcoin or even the cryptocurrencies are being derived, and who actually behind it. You take US dollar, you can simply say, oh, US dollar, you have American government. But when it comes to crypto, who's behind it? If you talk about US dollar, the economy US dollar determine the value of dollar. But when it comes to crypto, is it linked to which economy, right? Okay, so all this uncertainty is there, and this divide the opinion of the scholars. Some scholars, for example, like in Malaysia, they look at the concept itself, and they said, okay, this is permissible. But the other countries, when they look at how it's been practiced, and how it's been done right now, and they said, okay, this is not really something that permissible because it has a lot of uncertainty and garar and unknown risk. It doesn't link to anything. We do not know what's going on, who's behind it, and so on and so forth. So these are two different view when it comes to Sharia perspective. All right. So the concept is right, but right now the implementation is actually not right. And trust me, you can talk to many people, right? Or what do you think about crypto? The first thing, or they will say extremely volatile, but they don't understand the mechanism of monetary system, because the same argument can be made to US dollar as well. Because the fact that US dollar is just a free currency, a fiat currency, is being excessively being printed out, and doesn't even have any underlying value. The only thing that you have is actually the trust and also the economy of America, that allow a single country to monopolize and to hegemonize the entire world, and to give unnecessary power just because that dollar seems to be the anchor currency. Okay. And of course, in the Muslim world especially, we always talk about this. Why don't we have a common currency that can support the Muslim world? Let me just give you a simple example, something which is closer to my area, because I'm also studied international finance and economics quite extensively. I just give you an example. Like not right now, Pakistan is having problem, right? Another Muslim country, 220 million people. They went to IMF for how much? 1 billion US dollar. Only 1 billion US dollar. Right? A country of 220 million people and need IMF financing, 1 billion US dollar. Even that is to buy fuel and to buy food, so that they can finance their import, so that people will actually give them goods, because right now international trade, you need to use US dollar. So if you don't have the US dollar, you need to go to IMF. Right. So what that it does is that every current country in this world, if you don't manage your economy properly, your dependency is actually to US dollar, because US dollar is the currency that being controlled after the Second World War. And I'm sure if you have studied history and how economic evolved, one of the first thing they did after they won the World War is that they established two institutions. One is the World Bank and one is the IMF. And then they came up with the Bretton Woods system, and they say that every gold is actually equivalent to dollar. 1 ounce of gold is equal to 35 US dollar. So they use dollar as the benchmark of the commodity at that time, which is gold. Okay. And not only that, all the main commodity in the world, agriculture commodity or even oil commodity, everything is being priced in terms of dollar, because when you are priced everything in dollar, then all the transaction will happen in dollar. And when all transaction happen in dollar, automatically it create the dominancy of dollar, and it also create the dependency of the dollar as well. So the dollar has become a mechanism of hegemony, right? So control over other parts of the world. So today you have a Muslim country like Pakistan who is suffering because they got flood, big flood, and then they are being mismanaged, and they can't buy fuel because nobody wants their Pakistani rupees. For example, US dollar can say, okay, I want to buy something from Malaysia, give us dollar. So Malaysia will take. But Pakistan said, okay, I want to buy something from Malaysia, give Pakistani rupees. We don't want to take because we won't keep dollar as a reserve, right? We want to keep Pakistani rupees as a reserve, right? So Pakistani cannot buy fuel from Malaysia. So they need dollar. So this is where IMF comes in and give them a loan, which basically come with all the requirement, restriction, and so on and so forth. And so if you have an alternative, which very difficult for Muslim world to agree on alternative, because everybody wants to say their currency should be the main currency. So, and we can resolve this debate once and for all, because now the technology is available. All right. So we can also create, for example, Muslim crypto. Okay. All these countries come together and use, so for example, this concept of crypto, and create a currency and say, okay, if any Muslim country need financing and need help, all right, and we can start trading using this currency. All right. And we can just do barter trading. For example, what is barter trading? So I buy from Pakistan 80 billion of Bitcoin, and Pakistan buy from me, let's say 85 billion of Bitcoin, okay, we settle with, for example, 5 billion. So only we need, for example, 5 billion to settle. The rest all is what we call as a netting. Okay. And as the more countries start doing this, then it become, let's say, a trading currency. Okay. Then we can start pricing all our commodity in cryptocurrency as well, because crypto is also linked to US dollar right now. So you can either price it in dollar, or you can also price it in crypto. As over time, then you can actually start reducing the dependency on the US dollar. So if you got problem, you can basically get the support from the Muslim country rather than you are actually going back to the system. So to answer your question, there are two things that are happening right now. So people who control the power, afraid that they're going to lose the power. Okay, because all this while, this power has given them what we call as a artificial supremacy. Right, I'm sure you understand the meaning of artificial supremacy. You know, they created the supremacy out of something which is not really real. Okay, and they afraid that you're gonna take this thing away from them. Okay, because all other currencies are almost gone, right? Yen is almost gone. Pound sterling, I'm sure you all know, is also crashing, and UK economy is not doing so well, and Europe is also in trouble because of the energy crisis. So now that's the reason why everybody is now moving to dollar, and not to the something that we have, for example, in the Muslim world. So we are always in the disadvantage, because whatever resources that we have is also priced in dollars, not in our own currency. So that explains why, despite the fact that the Muslim world has so much of resources, but all those resources are being exploited, and that is creating a lot of geopolitical risk among the Muslim countries. So you look at Lebanon, you look at Pakistan, you look at Libya, you look at Tunisia, Yemen, and the list of countries are on and on. So people ask me why you are talking about all this. So I'm not talking about crypto just because I want to make money out of it. I never believe in investing something which is very volatile anyway. I see this concept much bigger than making money. It's good that we have an alternative investment, which is perfectly fine. But more importantly, the system should grow organically so that we can create either an alternative or a complementary system that allow a smaller countries to have a equal standing with a bigger country. So that's how I see the system is all about, and how it can benefit the Muslim world, inshallah.
Amazing. This is very interesting insight, Doctor. Actually, when you said it's either an alternative or complementary system, as blockchain or cryptocurrencies as an alternative or complementary, I see it actually as an alternative. That's why even if even crypto bro, communities didn't push hard for crypto, still banks or big corporate will really fight it because they really see it as an alternative. If this system has been adopted by the communities and emerged, it will be an alternative anyway. I don't see it how it will be as a complementary, maybe as you said, maybe for the unbanking, for really minor communities. But at the end of the day, one system has to emerge, one system has to dominate, and they are two opposite systems anyway. And I don't see how they're gonna work complementary with each other, because they are based. The main concept of the both system are totally actually the opposite. But this is actually a very interesting, insight. If we were talking more about, last thing, maybe more about the opportunities that existing right now, provided fintech or blockchain itself. Where do you see, beside the unbanking people, where do you see the most opportunities or the biggest opportunity relies nowadays?
Um, to answer these questions, right? I mean, one of the most beautiful thing about this is that you are able to integrate yourself into a global community. So there's no longer discrimination. For example, you say, okay, I'm from Malaysia, I can only put my money in Malaysia. So if I have a bad government, then my economy is bad, then I cannot have a good investment opportunity. Because I can't invest in Indonesia, for example, if there's no integration between my market and the other market, or we don't have, for example, regional investment opportunity. So the system that we have right now is that we'll remove all that. So in other words, is that you can go beyond the government. Okay, you can see yourself beyond the government. So that is the one of the most powerful thing that we see, even if we take it as an investment opportunity. That's number one. Number two, the system itself is so beautiful that you can actually tokenize everything. Okay, I'm sure you all understand NFT much better than me. You can tokenize your painting, you can tokenize your assets. So it allow us to monetize many things, and this is very Islamic anyway, because the value is linked to the real underlying assets. Of course, right now, people are only talking about painting, people are talking about arts and something which is overvalued. But again, don't look at the practice as it is right now. Look at the concepts. Okay, so this is something that people don't see beyond what we are seeing right now. People only see all these things are illogical. Right. Even in the past, banking also illogical. Banking also illogical. You give them $1, they can create $10. It's also illogical. But over time, you make people believe that it's logical. Why? Because everyone is doing it. So if you can make a wrong concept logical, then the whole idea right now that we have with cryptos is that the concept has to be linked to the real underlying asset based on the principle of Islamic finance. You can tokenize everything. You can make it transparent. You can make the entire system integrated. All right. And more importantly, even a government is so corrupt and you can't trust the leaders. And here we are saying you can go beyond the government. That means you can create a system without depending on the government. All right. And the system which is universally accepted can be used in terms of creating, let's say, a pocket of community, and using it for the right reason. So think about it, right? I just give you one simple example. All right, let's say in our home, in our village, in our community, let's say we have one asset, one building, a community building. Let's say the value is about 10 million. So what you can do is that, okay, you can say, okay, we don't really have money right now, so why don't we tokenize this? Okay, so you create a smaller investment, tokenize it, and then you say, okay, within this community, we will accept this token as a medium of exchange. Right? So now I start having chicken. My friend, neighbor has having, for example, a farming. All right, another person have lamb or cow, for example. Another one is a carpenter. Another one is basically having another skill or teacher, and so on and so forth. So instead of you waiting for the government to give you the money, you take, for example, one asset in the community and you tokenize it, and using a blockchain technology, which is so easy right now, and you guys know much better when it comes to technology, and you create a token. So rather than making it non-fungible like what it is right now, you make it fungible. Right? You allow, for example, the token to be used in terms of exchanging for your services. Right? And this is not a new concept anyway. This has been done in many parts of the world. I'm sure you probably have studied the concept of complementary currency. A city like Kuroshiba in the past have been transformed entirely using complementary currency. And there's another city in Brazil called Porto Alegre, completely been transformed using complementary currency. So complementary currency and crypto, which you are talking about, sooner going to become alternative. Right now, we're seeing it as a complementary because it's feeding into the bigger system. But eventually, as it get bigger, it may be, inshallah, it'll become an alternative. Can be used or in terms of harnessing the resources which is available in the Muslim world. Because this is what economics is all about, right? The currency will only have value when people start producing something. So right now in Lebanon, people say, oh, why should I produce? I'm being paid in the Lebanese pound and it got no value. So what people do, sitting at home. A carpenter sitting at home, a farmer sitting at home, a banker sitting at home doing nothing. But now you're saying, okay, let's build this system, let tokenize whatever asset that we have and use it in exchange, and everybody start working. So when everybody start working, economy will get vibrant, and then and transaction will take place. So you're no longer hungry, you got services, doctor can go to work, carpenter go to work, and so on and so forth. So to answer your question in a very short manner, I see it more as a tool to empower people. And the only reason why people are not able to do this because they don't understand it. So when I see you guys, young entrepreneur, coming out with a system as an investment alternative, and eventually you will come out as a solution and so on and so forth. So you are the ambassador for these concepts. And it's all about how you put the narrative of your concepts. Are you going to put it as a way of making money, or are you going to put it as a way of empowering the society, especially the Muslim world? So I would rather say, okay, making money is good. Of course, it has to be, because that's how business becomes sustainable. But as you can show that you are go beyond that and able to produce solution after solution that empowering the community, then your idea will be much more accepted, especially in the Muslim world right now, because we are really suffering indeed from a lot of problems. Yeah.
Wow, this is really amazing. It's really goes in line with what Manjam all about, and even specifically the idea of tokenization and backed currencies. It's been discussed many times in this cafe, and a lot of guys have a few ideas, amazing ideas about this. Very, very interesting and thoughtful insight. Thank you, Doctor, for sharing all this information with us. Allow me maybe now to open the floor for the guys to some quick question and answer sessions. I understand we have maybe 6 or 7 minutes left. Maybe we can extend a 5 to 10 minutes after your permission, Doctor, just for quick question and answer. I will leave the floor open for the guys if anyone would like to ask any question. Maybe unmute your mic and introduce yourself and ask your question. I'll start maybe with with the Ustad Muhammad, and then we'll open the floor for other members.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Walaikum salam.
Yes.
Yes, I can even recognize your voice. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. First of all, big thank you, Doctor. As they say in Malay, terima kasih. And this session has really been inspiring. And I would like to ask you to give us some additional inspiration. Since Malaysia, I see it again as a leader and a hub for fintech and development, and people, mashallah, taking the steps forward, I think faster than the Middle East, as you have maybe noticed now living 1 year in the Middle East and Qatar specifically. When we had the honor of attending your session in Beit al-Mashura conference in March, you mentioned you're an advisor for 5 Malaysian startups. If you can give us some idea about these 5 startups, their nature in 5 minutes, just to give us additional inspiration of some startups that are doing good and they have been expanding outside Malaysia, it would be highly appreciated. Thank you.
All right. So a quite number of startup that which I'm advising. So one is coming up with an excellent idea about how a company should be screened and rated, and how they are complying to sustainability practices or even Islamic social finance practices and everything. So what exactly they are doing is quite simple. They're actually coming through with a taxonomy of what you mean by sustainable, what you mean by Islamic social finance, and so on and so forth. So any companies that goes to them, either for financing or investment, can easily be screened, and eventually they can come up with their own rating and also identify the gaps as well. And so it's a more of an analytical solutions which bring more trustworthy to the investors and also to the borrowers as well. That's one. The other one which I'm advising is trying to provide alternative credit scoring for very poor people. So we're talking about the poorest of, nobody wants to give their money anyway. And why fintech allows that to do that, as I give you an example, because we can profile their behavior, and with the data, and which is been taken mainly from their mobile phone, how they use their technology, data to the point that how long they speak to their mother, and and their alarm system, for example, do they wake up for the first alarm or the second alarm or the third alarm, and so on and so forth. So the data that being derived from gadgets and the phones are also become very useful as far in terms of profiling people. And by profiling people, we can also give a better financing to them and also increase the likelihood of repayment. And then a number of them also are involved in what we call as a alternative credit scoring using psychometric analysis. That's the third one. And then the fourth one, the one Indonesia, they are coming out with a holistic ecosystem of using miles, using a point system. So, but they are providing a 360 lifestyle, education, social, health, and everything. So they created a platform and they put all the companies, and as long as every time you use the platform, you actually gonna get the point system, and that point system is also using like a blockchain technology as well, an open, secured, and that can be translated into a currency, and that currency can spend within the community as well. And then the reason I'm talking about all these things is that a lot of people feel that, oh, we are small, we cannot do anything, we are powerless. But actually, because the technology has been democratized, internet has been democratized, right? Everything is accessible to you all, and the idea is also being democratized because ideas is quite expensive in the past. You have to pay McKinsey, you have to pay BCG, but now individual like you all can actually come up with ideas, and people accept that. And all these companies who are quite successful are now are being valued at 2 million US dollar. Some has already gone up to 10 million US dollars. And the technology allow the Python, the NLP and all these software and system allow people to come up with the amazing. And even last week, my friend, he came and presented to me about his Islamic investment analytics. So you can take any company, you click on that company, it will tell you based on which Sharia screening, whether it's permissible and non-permissible. And you click on the Sharia screening, it will tell you why you are permissible and why you are not permissible. And he designed this entire analytics using Python. All right. So the point I'm trying to make here is that when I look at all this, and because I'm not a tech guy, and I'm only advise them in terms of solution. Okay, I tell them, okay, this is the problem, this is what we need, this is how we should be doing it, this is the framework. Okay, you guys go and do it. So that's my job. I'm a thinker. I see the problem and I try to see how to develop the solution. And these guys are fantastic in terms of translating these solutions, these ideas into solutions, and we are very happy because eventually we see the result and people are benefiting from the solution. Yeah.
This is amazing. Any of the guys, have also another questions. It's actually very inspiring project, and also maybe some of the guys here, some of our colleague work in NFT projects, some of them working in tokenization as well. Those are really one of the projects that the doctor mentioned that we should emphasize on because it really can help our Muslim community and definitely showing our Manjam or even any project in this industry as as a way to make money and go. This is not maybe the right angle to present to the community, making awareness about the possibility of this technology and why we should transfer to it, and the solutions of this technology are the most important things I think we should focus on. Besides, of course, making money and investing and maybe trading and other stuff. Ustad Mohammed, maybe you have another question you have said, and then maybe we can end with Ustad Mohammed's question because we have passed the time.
Okay. Sorry, but since I lived in Malaysia 3 years, I think today I'm entitled for another question after your permission, inshallah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, Dr. Eskandar, I would like to get your advice. Mashallah, the situation in Malaysia, people are open-minded, understanding, applying, innovating, and then spreading the knowledge outside Malaysia. And now I came to Istanbul. Istanbul has another also open-minded atmosphere and active. I'm a Jordanian living in Qatar, between Qatar and Jordan. and other countries similar, people are still thinking this is a taboo, maybe this is haram. What are you doing, Muhannad? Whatever. So some people think it's, as you mentioned before, just hot money, and you might win a lot, you might lose a lot. What's your advice to help us spread the message, spread the information to some communities that are not yet up to speed, such as Qatar or Jordan? Thank you.
No, for me, when I first hear about all these things, I also quite skeptical as well. I don't understand how it works. Then I don't believe it because I don't understand how it works. But as we go along and as I become an advisor and I learn, because the reason I become an advisor not just for me to share my knowledge, but more importantly, I want to really learn what's going on in the market out there. Because as an academics, we sometimes we live in the ivory tower and we don't really know what's exactly going on the ground. And when I talk to these people, I learn a lot. So for me, we need to create a very structured financial literacy when it comes to this alternative system. And that financial literacy should not be about purely on making money, purely about highlighting the fact that because the problem right now is that crypto is being labeled as an opportunity that you can make easy money, you can avoid taxes, you can buy a property in Dubai, and stay away from paying your local taxes and so on and so forth. So this is how exactly that being portrayed. And that's why people are trying to stay away from this, just like some people are staying away from Islamic banking, because they don't see whether this is a true aligned with the true spirit of Islam. But if you can couple this, for example, you have an Manjam, you have an investment alternative, but if you talk about investment alternative as a consequences of your solutions, you do this and you're going to make this much of impact, for example, on education, on empowerment, and so on and so forth. Not as a CSR, but your business model itself is really to harness the power of blockchain, crypto, AI, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, allow people to really have a better portfolio in terms of not only financing and investment, but also insurance as well. So as you can create a better ecosystem, and then you tell people that this is what we are trying to do as an ambassador, and all these things will just come under it. You wrap it up under the emblem of impact solutions. And then I would probably say whether it's a crypto or whether it's a traditional finance, I don't really think it really matters. But now when you talk about crypto, the first thing that comes to people's mind is speculative investment. So we need to educate people. And then, like you said, Malaysians are open-minded. Why? Because they seek information. They want to know about it. And the ecosystem is so robust that when you create something new and then it just go everywhere very rapidly, because there are so many institutions are talking about it and information spread very fast, and people seems to be understanding the concept also faster. But unfortunately, in many Muslim world, you don't have that ecosystem. So one of the things that your company can do, like what you are doing right now, is actually create a lot more financial literacy workshop, and so that let people come to you instead of you go to them. So you just highlight the beauty of it, and I'm sure people will actually come to you. And you guys are young, energetic, have a lot of creative ideas. So pursue that ideas, but try to actually relate those ideas to impact-based solution, which I'm really passionate about. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, Doctor, thank you so much again for your amazing insight. It was a really wonderful session, and it was really a great pleasure and honor to have you and to listen to your amazing ideas. Unfortunately, the time is only set for 1 hour, so maybe we can, hopefully, we can host you in the future, or maybe do more discussion and workshops, inshallah, in the future. Again, on behalf of Manjam team and on behalf of all the attendees, I would like to thank you for your insight and information and your time as well. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the attendees. It was great to have you and to listen to this amazing discussion. Until we meet next week at the same time for another topic, inshallah. See you, and fi amanillah, everyone.
Thank you so much for inviting me again. All the best,
Thank you.
guys. Inshallah.
Thank
Assalamu
you
alaikum.
so much.